you guys. My name's Keely Garcia. I teach second grade at Midway. Um, my second year of teaching has been different from my first because last year I taught first grade. I was given the opportunity to loop up to second grade with my class, and it was the best decision I ever made. I absolutely loved second grade, and I loved getting another year with my class. We got to hit the ground running and skip all those routines and procedures in the fall. It was absolutely amazing. Another huge thing was just my confidence in my self-teaching. The amount of times I questioned myself was way less. I mean, obviously I still did it, but way less than my first year. So just gaining confidence. What has been easier in my second year of teaching is definitely classroom management. I think it also helped that I looped with my students, but a huge part of it was that first year. That first year we struggle and we get all these tools and we just pile them up. And then in your second year, you really get to apply them. And everyone told me that, but I didn't believe them. But I think that I was successful in my second year because I struggled in my first year. The advice I would give to someone who's finishing their first year is to not be afraid to continue to ask questions and ask for help. Just because we finished our first year teaching doesn't mean we know everything. So continue to learn and grow.
Hello, teachers. Congratulations on almost being through your first year of teaching, and that is a huge accomplishment. You know this because you're living it. So I would say things get better, things get easier. You slowly start to feel like you know what you're doing. I think the difference between first year and second year is first year is just information overload. Everything is new, even down to the nuts and bolts and office business type things. So in your second year, you're much more familiar and comfortable with that. Things like professional development or where to go to sign a contract. And so that piece isn't as overwhelming, and it gives you more time to focus in on things that you want to do with your class and maybe classroom management. A huge shift for me as a second year teacher was having breathing room to try out a lot of those things that I wanted to incorporate into my classroom and into my learning. Things like a focus on growth mindset and really creating that type of class culture. My advice is that the culture, your community you build, and your relationships with your students are always the most important thing. Always go back to that when you're struggling or frustrated. Go back to your students.
Hello, Chef Claymore here from Moses Lake High School, best year 2 cohort. I am now sitting where you will be sitting in 1 year's time. And so here are the things that were different for me from year 1 to year 2. I mean, like confidence, the classroom management became more fluid. I knew where all the bathrooms were. I knew the names of the teachers on my hallway. Like, that was cool to not have to be like, hey, how are you doing today? All of that makes things less stressful when you don't have all those little bits of, I need to do a thing. I got to send an email to my boss about who to talk to do the thing. It puts it on easy mode. It's more fluid, ease of motion, I would call that in your day-to-day. Stuff that was easier in the second year, for sure the technology, because once I got past the fact that I had emotionally rejected G Suite like 5 years ago and declared it trash, and was like, oh, I better learn how to use this because this is it, and the kids don't really know how to use it the way that I need them to, so that I could teach them, we're good. I couldn't even believe how much time it saved, how much easier my life was, and the way it opened up avenues of communication and expression between me and the students. Which leads me into the advice part of what I would suggest for going into your second year, which is put those relationships first. Learn their names. Make sure they know and see your effort of learning their names and a little bit about them. You check off when you have gotten to have a little bit of chit chat with a kid, because it matters. It matters if you know that they went fishing with their dad last weekend. It matters if you notice that they're really hungry often. All of those things lead to you being able to notice when they're off, so you can pull them aside and be like, hey man, are you okay? Or what's wrong? Or I noticed you're not talking to your friend anymore. That is what fosters trust and what allows you to tailor things to their interest, to pique their engagement in your material, and also just to let them into your heart, and the other way around. Because you will always regret the kid that you don't reach. You can't reach them all, but you can try. And don't regret that you didn't make the effort. So just take the time. You can't make them come to you, but ultimately, you will remember them and they will remember you, and you will be able to serve them and really give them an experience that they deserve if you just make that phone call home, talk to them. They're always, always worth your time.
Hi, first year teachers. My name is Jody Fletcher, and I am a fifth grade teacher at Sage Point Elementary. At Sage Point, we specialize, and so I only teach ELA. So it's a little bit different than how you will probably be teaching or have taught, obviously, this year being your first. What made my second year different from my first year was in my first year, I asked a lot of questions, didn't understand a lot of things, didn't understand a lot of the lingo. This year, understood the lingo a lot better, still asked some questions and still learning, but definitely this year was a lot easier than last year, than my first year. The reason that I think it was easier was because I understood, I had asked questions. I listened, they give you all these tools and things that you can use, and you're like, yeah, I'll implement that. Yeah, I'll try that. And this year I actually got to try and do some of those things, and that was a lot of fun. One of the things that I would focus on is classroom management. You want to build a good rapport with your students in your class. You want them to trust you, and you want to trust them. You want to be very firm in what you expect, and you want to stay with what you expect. If you say, for instance, if you get 2 warnings, then you're going to turn a card and that's going to be a phone call home. Whatever your classroom management is, make sure you follow through with that, because they have to know that you mean what you say and you say what you mean. The advice that I would give someone finishing up their first year would be to know that this gets easier. I know the first year is tough. My first year last year, I felt like someone had turned on a fire hose and was just hosing me down with all this information that I didn't know what to do with some of it. I didn't even understand what some of the acronyms meant. So this year was obviously a lot easier. The curriculum was a lot easier because I had been through it once. And so it made more sense. I understood how to get around in Connect Ed, for instance, how to maneuver and how to find things and how to get to certain assessments a lot easier on my own. So just hang in there, first year teachers. Congratulations to you for almost having your first year done. But I promise that it gets a lot easier. And congratulations to you. And I'm glad that you're doing what you enjoy doing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eddie Ramos, and I teach second grade at Peninsula Elementary. During my second year, there were a lot of things that got easier, one of them being classroom management. Your second year around, you know exactly what's going to work, what's not going to work. But one thing I will say is you absolutely need to get to know your kids right away, especially for the classroom management aspect, because it allows you to see what's going to work with some students versus what's not going to work with others. And from the previous year, you'll also know what kind of signals work, what kind of things the students are going to react to, and what kind of things they won't. Something that also got easier, a lot easier actually, in the second year was assessing my students. Because you do know the curriculum so much better your second year around, you're going to find it a lot easier to formatively assess your students, because you do know that curriculum inside and out. You'll find yourself giving little 3-2-1 checks, fingers up, sideways, down. All those things are formative assessments that you don't usually think of, and that you're going to be constantly doing throughout the curriculum your second time around. It just comes a lot more natural, and it's a lot easier to actually get to know your kids and where they stand in their academics. Some advice I would give you guys is don't be afraid, even your second year, to go ask for help. This year, I wasn't offered the amount of help, I guess, just because our building coaches and people like that do have other things that they need to take care of, and they have other first year teachers to help. But they absolutely make more than enough time for you. And I'm just going to say, use those resources. Use your grade level team, use your principal, use your building coach, use whoever you can to get advice from. That's about it. And I hope everything goes well in your second year next year.
Hello, everyone. So before I start talking about the 3 questions which are the focus of this video, I want to congratulate you. But more specifically, I want that congratulations to serve as a reminder. And to emphasize my point, I'm going to get up nice, close, and personal with you here. So the reminder that I want to give you is to congratulate yourself. When you finally finish your first year, because you're not there yet, all right, you got to finish strong with these last couple of weeks. But when you finally cross that finishing line, I want you to take a moment. Maybe it's when the last kid walks out your door. You find a place to sit down and you think about all the positive impacts you've made this year, all the things you did well. Forget about everything else. Just think about those positive impacts that you worked so hard for, all right? Internalize that and congratulate yourself. Because for me, at least, that was the foundation of my inner authority, right? Taking pride in my work, taking pride in the things I did well was foundational to building that inner authority. And that transitions well into our 3 focus questions. Differences between first and second year, what's easier about your second year, and what advice I have for you. I'm going to boil that all down and make it real simple for you. The main difference between your first year and your second year is that your second year is easier. All right. That should be pretty obvious to you by now. The more often you do something, the easier it gets. The more experience you have with something, the easier it gets. But it only gets easier if you do one specific thing: reflect. Reflection is a serious business. It's not something that we, throw around in PD and say that we do. You can't, right? You actually have to reflect on your practice. What have you done well? What have you not done well? And why is each the case? All right. And then try and look at the vast resources that are out there that are going to help you address those weaknesses. Okay. Because you got a lot of them. We all do. Teaching is a hard business to not have any weaknesses in. But importantly, you have a whole lot less weaknesses now than you did when you started this thing. All right. So good luck. I'm pulling for you. Don't forget, we're all in this together.